Yep.
Emilio
Arciniega. Finishing each of the sentences already.
Thanks a lot for being here, buddy.
Thanks for having me. I'd been doing talent management effectively since I was about 18. A very big YouTuber called Boyce Avenue. I was working with them on and off from about the age of 18. We realised that potentially this could be our full-time job. The first deal we ever did was £200 and we made a £40 commission. And I ran around my kitchen being like, yes, we've done it.
Were you not doing the job that their manager should be doing anyway?
Exactly. A manager from another agency called me and said, are you hiring for talent managers? And that was the big turning point for us. By the end of the year, we would launch a talent agency. I said to Amy this morning, I said, I bet Matt's going to ask that. Don't say anything you're going to regret. The first 6 to 12 months was tough. Is this going to work? And is this healthy for our marriage? If you'd have told us we could work on this kind of stuff, I'd have thought you were absolutely mental. I saw an industry that had some really talented people in it, but I saw a lot of young creators getting taken advantage of.
Guys, Matt Haycox here, and I've got another podcast I'm very much looking forward to today, although it's one that I'm almost going to have to ask the guest to do his own introduction because he's got such a complicated surname, which he admits to not even being able to pronounce until he was 18 himself.
True story.
But I have got influencer marketing expert, talent manager extraordinaire, founder and owner of the outreach agency,
Yep.
Emilio
Arciniega.
There you go. It's like a two-piece intro. Emilio Arciniega.
Finishing each of his sentences already, mate.
Say again?
Finishing each of his sentences already.
Exactly. It's a partnership in the making. Well, thanks a lot for being here, buddy.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, like I say, influencer marketing,
Yep.
talent management. Just give us a bit of a context to, I guess, where the business came from and why you're qualified for everything we're about to talk about.
Well, I mean, do you want the long version of it or the short version?
The exciting
The
version.
exciting bit. Well, the exciting version, I guess, of it is I'd been doing talent management effectively since I was about 18. Kind of fell into it.
Who for?
A very big YouTuber called Boyce Avenue. I don't know if you know them, but they do cover songs on YouTube. But
Okay.
they literally were one of the first OGs of YouTube, and they were based in the US. And I was working with them on and off from about the age of 18. Went to university, and when I came out of university, they asked me to manage them.
Were they in the UK, but you in the so they're in the US and you're in the UK?
Yeah, so basically,
How did that work?
So my sister, who I mentioned lived in Leeds before the podcast, was a music manager, and when she would do tours and whatnot, I would basically be her runner. And I met Boyce Avenue when they were on a tour in the UK working with her. And we just built up a relationship, a rapport. And I was doing bits of digital marketing for them, but they were in the US and I was based here in the UK. And then during my university degree, I had to do, a placement year.
Yep.
So I, instead of, doing the usual of like going to a Deloitte or going to a KPMG, like all my other business, I did business management at uni. All of my friends were doing. I called them and was like, "Can I have a job basically for a year?" They very kindly gave me that job, and that's kind of how I got into that process of doing, music, but also YouTube management because they were a band, but they were on YouTube. That was their main, I guess, revenue stream. Came out of uni, and they asked me to be their manager. So I did that for about 5 years, and then COVID hit, and half of my job was tour management. So that went to shit. And I couldn't do that anymore. And my wife and I at the time were thinking, God, what else can we do? And through kind of knowing Boyce, I'd met so many creators.
What did your wife do?
She was a recruiter.
Okay.
Her family all did recruitment. She went into recruitment. So we actually met doing business at Newcastle. So she was very business orientated as well. So we just thought, let's tap into this creator network that we've got and try and pitch them to brands. And we started doing that during COVID. And it kind of went from there, really. So what we would do is we would basically go to brands and say, we know loads of creators. Do you have any brand deals going on at the time? They would say yes, no, mainly no.
You really did know the creators, or you were going?
We did know the creators, but like we didn't know the brand. So I was pitching to like Nike and Coca-Cola, not knowing that they would already have huge agencies running their, marketing campaigns. I was very naive at the time, kind of blissfully so. But then, we got a few very, very small deals. Like the first deal we ever did was £200 and we made a £40 commission. And I ran around my kitchen being like, yes, we've done it. And we just started partnering creators and brands together to the point where we realized that potentially this could be our full-time job. It was going to just be a side hustle during COVID. So we weren't managing any talent. I need to make that clear. So we were doing this all non-exclusively with talent. So we would reach out to talent agencies and be like, we're working with X, Y, and Z brand, working with Gymshark or an ASOS. We've got a brief. We think these creators will fit it. And we were just being the middleman, really. And we started to see the good and bad of talent management.
Were you not doing the job that their manager should be doing anyway?
Exactly. That's exactly what they should be doing. Now, there are a lot of these middle agencies, brand agencies that will, and we work with them quite regularly now. And, they come to a talent agency and they send us a brief and they run their campaign on behalf of the brand.
How does the money get split? So if I'm a talent creator and I've got a manager who I guess is going to be on 20% probably anyway, and you come as a non-exclusive and bring them a deal,
it's a really good question.
Are you two going to divvy it up together?
It's a really good question. So usually it's a bit cloak and dagger. So each brand agency has a different way of doing things. Some agencies will disclose what margin they're putting on top. Some of them won't, and they just say this is the fee we're prepared to offer your client. So £1,000, say.
Oh, okay, so they might if it's a Gymshark, for argument's sake, Gymshark say there's 10 grand in a campaign here, you might say it's 9 grand and take a slice off.
And you never know. And I've heard, margins being anywhere from 10% to 100%. And that's where there's a lack of regulation still in the industry. There's a lack of transparency in the industry, which is something we're trying to instill in our roster and our team. But it is sometimes just when we work with brand agencies now, it's just on us to try and get the best fees for our clients. And if we're happy with it, then hopefully everybody will be happy with it.
So tell me, you run around your kitchen with your first 40 quid.
Yeah.
How did you go from that 40 quid to actually having a proper business, not a side hustle?
The turning point for us was that we were working non-exclusively with all this talent. And we were seeing the good and bad of management. So we worked with some great management agencies, and we also worked with some not great management agencies. And Amy and I just sat there and said, we can do this, and we can do this as good as any of these talent agencies out there. Let's start to sign talent exclusively to us and become a talent agency instead of a brand agency. I'd been doing management for about 5 years at that point. I knew what I was doing. I'd managed one creator, and I felt like I knew how to manage creators really well. And it's quite a funny story. I remember it to this day. On the 21st of February 2021, I had this conversation with Amy, and I said, we need to manage talent. And no one knew we were going to manage talent. We were just a brand agency. And that day, a manager from another agency called me and said, are you hiring for talent managers? Completely fate. And sometimes in life, it's just like, this is the right thing to do. And the conversation that Amy and I had was that by the end of the year, we would launch a talent agency. And by the end of that year, we already had 10 to 15 creators on our books because we just started as soon as possible. And that was the big turning point for us, to be able to build a talent agency and be able to hone that talent, work with that talent, develop that talent. That's what really took us from it being a side hustle, for it to be a business where we could hire more talent managers and talent assistants and whatnot. But it was a slow first year because it's a very competitive industry, as you can imagine. There's no barrier to entry. Anybody can be a talent manager. You don't have to have a qualification or anything like that. So in that 2021 year, so many people became talent agents and so many agencies popped up. And even now, to this day, I heard 3 talent agencies launched last week. So it's so competitive. So that first year was tough. And I think in that first year, we probably only signed 10 to 15 creators, but they were all solid, all had a niche, all were creative, had good revenue.
You quit your jobs in your first year. That was your full-time gig.
So I guess the timeline is that we started doing the brand pitching in the April of 2020, literally just after COVID. Launched the talent division February 21, and I quit my job by the end of 21. And Amy had quit a few months before.
What's it like working with the missus?
I said to Amy this morning, I said, I bet Matt's going to ask that. She went, don't say anything you're going to regret. I do mean this, and I'm not just saying this because I had the conversation with Amy this morning. It's genuinely the best thing I've ever done.
From a business perspective or for your relationship?
From a business perspective, yeah. I'm not going to lie, the first 6 to 12 months was tough. And I think we both had the conversation of, is this going to work and is this healthy for our marriage? Because we were both still learning. Neither of us had run a business before, and we're both very headstrong.
What are your roles? Are you like joint joint CEOs or something? Or?
No, well, the other interesting thing is that Amy had our first child about 15 months ago.
Congratulations.
So she went, thank you. So she went off on mat leave for the last, year or so.
You allowed her to?
Yeah. Well, I had no decision in that. It was quite funny because I say to people, it's amazing because I had my first child, but I also lost my business partner for a year. And me and Amy are like that. We run everything by each other. But to answer your question, the first 6 months was pretty hellish in terms of we both thought we knew the right answer to everything. And when we didn't agree, our heads would butt. And we're very headstrong. I say this to anybody whenever they say what it's like working with your wife. You need to find your lane. What you just asked, what do we both do? Amy's good at certain things and I'm good at certain things and I'm bad at certain things and she's good at those things and we complement each other quite well. But until we figured out our lanes, it was quite tough. But now I trust her implicitly on everything, which for a business partner, as you know, is so important. You've got to trust your business partner implicitly. And on top of that, she's also making decisions to benefit our family. So even when you've got a business partner who's not your family member, they're going to make decisions based on to benefit their family as well. Whereas everything goes back into our family. So everything that we're dealing with each other is amazing. And she can be, more blunt than anybody I've ever worked with to me. And I need that. So there's ups and downs, but overall it's been amazing.
I mean, what you say though is the right answer for any partnership. And I think, quite often I see it go wrong.
Yeah.
And that's not in husband and wife partnership, that's just in business in general.
Yeah.
And I think it's even harder when you then lay the husband and wife thing on, because what you've said is you both found your own lanes, you've had to find your own lanes.
Yeah.
And for me that's the only way a partnership works,
100%.
because otherwise you're just diluting the income. There's absolutely no point having two people who both bring the same thing to the table.
No.
Whatever if you're going to have a partner who doesn't do something opposite to what you do, then you shouldn't have the partner in the first place.
Well, exactly.
And I guess that's often difficult enough to get into the head of, it's probably not when you don't know each other, because I think it goes wrong where, let's say, two friends say, oh, let's go and get into business. And because you've gone and got into business as friends, you just, I guess, naturally do whatever you're both going to do, which maybe is the same thing. If I didn't know you and I'm going to go and get into the influencer marketing space, well, I'll come thinking, okay, I don't know talent management, I don't know managers, but I know finance and I know bigger picture or whatever. Well, we'll be a good fit for each other. Yeah. But if we were already mates, then we'd have probably already crossed that line. It's obviously even more difficult when you've had the husband and wife in. I mean, as someone in the influencer marketing space, who are some business influencers that you like to follow?
That's a great question. I mean, I'll be honest, I do obviously keep on top of who's doing what in our market, but I take more inspiration from people outside of our market. And I actually take a lot of inspiration from sport. I'm a huge sport fan. And I think that the best cultures and teams, you can learn so much from sports teams. So I follow so many, people like Clive Woodward from, the England rugby coach.
I'm not a sporty
guy.
I feel like I've heard the name, but I can't say
James Haskell, who you had on your podcast, he'll know.
I'll be honest, I'd never heard of him before he came on.
That's so funny.
Anytime we get a sports guest on here, I've got to get someone else to do my prep for me.
That's so funny. I'm actually going to Lille tomorrow to watch the England game.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So, but no, like people like Clive Woodward are huge inspirations in terms of business people that I take inspiration from. The people like Stephen Bartlett, obviously in our industry, has been amazing, and especially somebody so young doing.
It's a swear word for me.
Some people like Ben Francis from Gymshark.
Yeah.
I was in LA a few weeks ago because they had an LA Lift event and they had 17,000 followers of Gymshark athletes there in this huge hangar in LA, and just to see what the community he's built at such a young age, huge inspiration for me. But I think it's important to kind of take inspo from people outside of your industry, because I think when you get obsessed in your industry, you can, like you said, you're going to do it the same way constantly. You have to, influencer marketing is so young. It's only just started, and to take only your inspiration from an industry that is brand new is, I think, quite a dangerous thing. We have to learn from other marketing funnels, other business funnels.
Well, the thing is, when you're taking a lead or an inspiration from something in the same industry, I would go as far as to say that your ceiling is already set.
Well, yeah, that's a great way of putting it. No, 100%. And I think that, there's some amazing people in our industry doing great things, great agencies like YMU and CAA and these big, traditional talent agencies.
When you mentioned CAA, I mean, obviously, biggest agency in the world. I mean, do people like that do influencer marketing well, or do they normally fuck it up because they're doing?
It's a great question because yes, they do, because what they
which bit, well or bad?
No, they do it well because what they've done is that they've effectively hired the right people who can come in and do that influencer side of things. They've also bought influencer talent agencies and taking it under the CAA brand or the UTA brand or whoever the big agency is. And so they do it well. I think it took them a little bit of time to cotton on to this is the next phase of entertainer, but they definitely do it well. Are they doing it better than some of the smaller agencies? No, I don't believe that. And I think they can learn a lot from the smaller agencies like ourselves, but we could learn a lot from them. And we're bringing in more senior people into our team that have been at these more traditional agencies to kind of hone the young team that we've got. Because like you just said, we've got a ceiling if we just learn from ourselves. We need to bring in that experience.
So let's go back to outreach.
Yeah.
I mean, I know you guys describe yourselves as talent first.
Talent first, yeah. Talent led.
I mean, so that means you're purely representing talent.
Yeah. It means that, and it's a good question, Matt, because we were talking about this in a meeting in the team the other day about what it actually means.
How big's the team?
Just under 20 now.
Primarily artist management.
A couple of support staff, but primarily artist or talent management. And we were saying to each other, what does that actually mean? Like talent led or talent first? And I think it means, one, yes, obviously we manage talent and that's our primary role, but it's also the decision making behind the business and everything we're doing is for the best interest of our talent. And a lot of agencies say they're talent first or talent led, but then are they actually making every decision, whether that's a negotiation with a brand, whether it's growth within the team, investment within the team, is that actually helping the talent? And so when we put in business models within the team, whether that's keeping a small roster or whether that's being incredibly proactive and focusing on bringing in deals for our clients, are we doing that with the best interest of our talent at heart? Are we forcing them to do brand deals they don't want to do just because we want to make a profit? No, because we're talent first and we want to do what's best for their career, best for their profiles, and best to really have a sustainable career, because no one knows how long this is going to last. No one knows how long a lifespan of a creator is.
And so how would you say that a creator should be looking at themselves to develop a sustainable career? And I guess I'll semi-answer the question a bit myself with some of my opinion.
Yeah.
But again, this is quite biased towards what I call, let's say, more macro creators or celebs who've walked off a Love Island or a Towie or something, got a following, and therefore have the ability to be a walking billboard and do some paid posts. But my view is that 99% of them, I can't think off the top of my head of anyone who I would say has done it right, fucks it up for themselves in the long term because I guess they just have whether it's the arrogance or whether it's the delusion or simplicity of thinking, I'm famous, I can get a couple of grand for a post, $5 for a post, but they don't, they forget that, Love Island comes out every year. The next year there'll be someone younger, someone hotter, and you will get forgotten soon enough. And I think the trick that they're missing is finding their space, finding their niche that is something timeless. Whether it's a product that they can sell, whether it's a career that they can go into. But they should not just be thinking, I look good, I can do a few bikini pictures.
No, and it's actually really interesting to hear, your take on it. But I think what you've discussed there is an influencer. So
not a creator.
Okay. So I have a very big distinction, and our team has a very big distinction. And I know a lot of people do in the industry about the difference between an influencer or, a reality TV star and a creator. Those reality TV stars, you're right, there's few of them that have had sustained careers. There's the Molly Mays, there's the Josh Denzels. There's not that many that have actually had a sustained career because they don't have a niche. They're not adding value. That's what I always talk about with creators. Are you actually adding value to your audience? A reason why to, frankly, follow you? in terms of creators and what they need to do, from my opinion, to have a sustained career, is like you said, you have to carve out a niche about what your content is, and you need to keep it really, really, really high quality. So let's take a beauty creator. So we have a really strong beauty roster, and
sorry to interrupt. Just a beauty creator is someone who does makeup videos and
makeup
stuff.
videos
with other people's makeup.
Tutorial. Well, hopefully they launch their own brand one day, but they do tutorials and they do looks and they do transitions. And I think the thing that we focus on, for example, for them is making sure they're becoming experts in their field, and people are following them because they want to know why to use a certain type of product, why one product's better than another type of product, really adding that kind of value to their audience. Or if you take a fitness creator, they're not just doing like cool videos that look really good. They're talking to their audience. Why should you do this exercise? Why should you not do this exercise? Where you need to be careful in terms of doing these exercises. Whatever it may be in terms of the type of content they're making, are they actually adding value, or are they just making fun, cool content? Because that doesn't have sustainability in my eyes. And the second thing you need to do is you need to jump on every platform that is out there, because you never know what's going to take off. Not just in terms of the platforms. We've seen TikTok go crazy this last few years, but you don't know that you might go on Snapchat and it might absolutely take off for you. And it's very, very difficult to manage multiple platforms at once and make content specific for that platform, because you can't just repurpose across each platform and think it's going to do well. Mm-hmm. You have to make specific content for each platform. But if you really want a sustained career, you need to tap into every platform, which gives you every revenue stream.
And when you say tap into every platform, I mean, obviously some platforms some are similar. You might need to repurpose, but
of course, yeah,
like an Instagram reel, like it's similar to a TikTok,
to
not
short,
wildly dissimilar from a Snapchat. But Twitter, for example, I mean, if I was a beauty creator, would you still be telling me to get on Twitter, and what would I be doing?
It's a great question. I mean, for a beauty creator specifically, there are still ways to be on Twitter. Twitter gives you that opportunity to build a conversational community. You could still be having conversations, posting videos on Twitter, and have a conversation with your community, asking what products you like, why don't you like certain products. We have a comedy creator on our roster called Monica Geldart, who's also an actor, and she finds that she has a great audience on Twitter, because there's actually a lot of people that go on Twitter to look for new actors and people that are in that space. So I just think there's no harm in trying out every platform. Like Threads just came out, went crazy for a few weeks, and then it's died off a little bit. But still, people have now built decent communities on Threads, and that's just it's those first adopters of those platforms.
Did you tell your talent to have a podcast?
We are working with our creators on quite a few podcasts at the moment. For example,
for them going on other people's, or for them to create their own.
Bit of both. So obviously, going on other people's is a great way to not just make short form content. You can actually have a real conversation like this, which is amazing. But we also are working with a lot of our creators to make their own podcasts. But I think the key is you can't just make a podcast and hope it does well. There's a lot of podcasts out there right now. Everyone's realizing the value of having a successful podcast, not just from a revenue point of view, but from an exposure point of view. So we are working with a lot of our creators, and we do encourage them to do a podcast if it's the right fit for them. For example, we just signed Alex Partridge, who founded Lad Bible.
Oh yeah.
And he got diagnosed about 6 months ago with ADHD, and he's made a very niche podcast on his ADHD journey. And it's now like top 5 in the mental health podcasts in the UK. Amazing.
When you say you've signed him, what does he do as a creator?
Well, his Instagram, I think, has got over his whole following across all platforms. It's got 400,000 followers now. So for us, we can leverage that from a brand point of view. We can go and get him brand sponsorships for his podcast. We're now in book conversations off the back of that. So we can work. I think that's a key thing about not just our agency, but any decent talent agency. We're not just focusing on brand campaigns, it's other commercial opportunities. So podcasts, book deals, TV deals, other types of revenue streams, because the brand revenue is very volatile. There's months of the year that are amazing. There's months of the year that are terrible. There's seasonality for a lot of different types of creators. Beauty creators have a great Q4 because everybody's buying makeup in the run up to Christmas and Black Friday. You've got, fitness creators that do amazing in January because everyone's back in the gym, but they might not do as well other times of the year. And we saw it at the beginning of this year because of the fear of the recession and the cost of living crisis. But brand budgets got squished, and people were so, I won't say afraid, but they were very conscious on the money they were spending. So the first couple of quarters of the year, from a brand point of view, were very volatile. Thankfully, Q3 has been great and Q4 is looking better. But you can't just focus on brand campaigns as a creator and think that's how I'm going to have a sustainable career. You've got to branch into these other revenue streams. And that's where going back to the platforms is important, because you can't build those revenue streams of just one platform. If you just have a TikTok, it's very difficult to be able to tap into a book deal or a podcast. You need to be able to build multiple platforms and maybe start a YouTube channel where you're making long form content, which we can then take to podcast companies and be like, look at this person in long form content. They're amazing. Because 9 times out of 10, if you're just a short form video creator, it's quite difficult to pitch a podcast because you've only done a 15-second video usually. So it's about focusing on different revenue streams and not just waiting for those brand campaigns to come in.
And talk to me a bit about the economics. So and I mean, does each creator treat it differently, or is there kind of accepted rules? So, for example, I don't know, Gymshark comes along and says, right, so here's 10 grand, Mrs. Smith, for a campaign.
Yeah.
I presume that's just like an all-in 10 grand, and the creator has to deliver the content and then keep their profit. So how would they decide? How do they decide? Should they spend £1,000 making this video and make themselves 9 grand, or should they spend 9 grand making an absolute super duper duper video and just doing themselves £1,000? Or have I got that completely wrong?
So are you saying in terms of would they go and spend the creator themselves on making the video?
Yeah, yes. I mean, maybe I've got that wrong. I'm assuming that you come to me and say, right, Matt, here's 10 grand.
Yeah.
That's your sponsorship gig. Go and make me some business content,
right.
and I effectively have to make that content, and I'll be using some of that 10 grand.
Exactly. No. It's a great question. I think that it's a great question in terms of the majority of creators can make content, let's say, fairly cheaply. So there's not really that kind of conversation that goes on, because if I take a deal to a creator from a Gymshark and say they're paying you 5 grand to go and do a TikTok video, it's not really going to cost them very much to make that video. Because
typically the videos are unboxings, putting on the Gymshark equipment, doing a couple of press ups.
Those bigger videos, those bigger campaigns, that cost of making the video, whether that's hiring a production team or an editing team or an animation team, will usually charge back to the brand.
But do you have any creators who actually are kind of in that space themselves? Like, I hear that Mr. Beast, I mean, I don't know how true or not they are, but I mean, allegedly he spends £1 million on a video and 100 grand on a thumbnail.
Yeah.
But as mad as people think that may be, that they then got to understand he's making tens of millions on the back end. So it's just like
the Mr. Beast things is incredible to me, because I hear people say, talk about that story of how much he's spending per video and how much it would cost for you to put a brand deal in his video. I think it's somewhere between 2 to 3 million if you just want to put your brand in his videos. But they get 100 million views. Now that's as much as the Super Bowl, where you're spending 8 million and it's in between 6 different ads.
Yeah.
So to me, that's cheap still. So it's a funny way of doing it. We, in terms of creators who spend big on their videos, we don't manage any at the moment that do that kind of thing. And I think it's quite hard to compete with the likes of Mr. Beast on that. You've got creators in the UK like the Sidemen or the Beta Squad, and they do stuff like that. They spend so much money on their videos to produce it. And I definitely think that is going to be the future of influencer marketing, where you're going to have to keep leveling up your game to get views, because the market's so saturated in terms of how many creators are out there and how much content is out there right now. We're working with another third-party production studio at the moment with some of our creators to make bigger and better YouTube videos. And what we have there is a split. So they'll take part of the AdSense revenue. Okay. But we're not having to pay them to do it. And I definitely think that's the future, because I think that to stand out now on social media is harder than it's ever been.
I mean, are there any other any new niches at the moment? So, I mean, I look at what I follow, and I never know if it's because the algorithm sends you more of what you look at, don't you? So, so whether or not it's new or I'm just seeing more of it because I'm looking. But I follow quite a few of the absolute lunatic parkour type people, like these guys who are, I can't remember
like James
the names.
Kingston type of stuff.
Lad I've been watching lately. I mean, he's fucking nuts. I mean, like literally just jumps off the top of like 8-9 story buildings onto lampposts,
Right.
and then like shimmies down the lampposts, and so obviously like totally unprotected.
Yeah.
High fives his mate,
And then you just get sent loads more content like
yeah.
that. Yeah.
But I mean, I presume that is a content creation niche, and
Yeah.
you take someone like that on, and
Yeah, you definitely could do. I think
a brand deal with a helmet manufacturer.
Well, that's the thing, right? I think there's not that there's ever something that's too niche, but if you are in a very particular niche, it is quite hard to monetize it.
Is that very niche?
That would be very niche. For like, again, it would all come down to how big's their following, what's their audience, do they have a strong UK audience, strong engagement? You could definitely generate business, but there's always a balancing act between being too broad in your content. Like, you're just a lifestyle creator, no one really knows what kind of content you make, but you just have this cool life, and that's also quite hard to monetize. Or you go super niche like that. Like, I remember one of the weirdest briefs we had in once was a company wanted some people that worked on oil rigs, like creators that worked on oil rigs, and we were just like, I'm sorry, we don't.
Are there any?
I was like, well, we can try, but I'm not going to confirm that we could definitely do this for you, because we need to go look for it. But in terms of new niches, I think there's always new niches. Like, effectively, social media is a tech industry. Social media has its creativity, but we're a tech industry, and we can develop as quickly as tech develops. So there's always new niches coming on, depending on the tech that gets invented through social media. For example, there's loads of AI creators right now. And that doesn't just mean that what was happening about a year or two ago is they were making these effectively like animation AI creators, and they look real. They look like real people, and they've got 2-3 million followers on social media. And then you have to question, well, who's running those accounts? And is it safe for people to be following those kind of accounts? But now what you've got is people are effectively making YouTube channels through AI editing videos. So they can just type in, make me a video about a certain subject. They make the video, this AI system, and they post it on YouTube, and it gets hundreds of thousands of views. That's the new thing we're contending with right now, because you still have to contend with that against the algorithm. So if you're making some great, beauty content or fitness content, you've got to now compete against AI channels who are eating up a lot of the views. So that's probably like the weirdest niche right now that we're contending with, but there's always new niches of content out there.
You talk about working on all the platforms. Tell me, do you have anything to do with OnlyFans?
No, we don't, but I know some agencies that do. And I know a lot of creators that are on OnlyFans, and they're not making the X-rated content. Like James Haskell, who you had on, has an OnlyFans account, I believe.
I've heard that, yeah.
Yeah, he does like DJ content, and there's like chefs on there. And I think the OnlyFans model is really interesting because it's effectively a Patreon model.
Yes.
It's just putting, content behind a paywall. And what you're seeing now is YouTube are bringing that in, Instagram are bringing that in. So whether OnlyFans is going to keep expanding the way it has done, I'm not sure, because I think these other major platforms that are seen as more legit are going to be doing a similar thing.
Yeah, I think that's the problem, isn't it, for a non-explicit creator, that people who know that OnlyFans, it's not a porn site, it's just a piece of tech that allows creators and audience to meet and to take some money in the middle. But I guess the whole brand of OnlyFans just feels so adult that if Gordon Ramsay says he's got an OnlyFans account, people don't think he's whisking an egg, do they?
Exactly. But there's a lot of people earning a lot of good money on there, and I can see why people are on there for all sorts of reasons. But it's not something we've delved into yet.
And is that because of reputational reasons, or you just haven't gotten around to it yet?
I think initially it's a reputational thing. We manage content creators, and although there are people on OnlyFans, as I say, doing non-X-rated stuff, there's still the vast majority is X-rated.
But channels. Are you sending because I guess it's another monetization channel for your clients, isn't it? And they say whether it was OnlyFans, whether it was Patreon, are you not educating your talent base to go and charge the subscribers?
The subscription model, 100%, but we're doing it more on the platforms like the YouTubes and the Instagrams of the world, on podcasts when you can put it behind a paywall, things of that nature. Because even just from like a legitimacy point of view, those platforms are seen as more legitimate. It's easier for us to even just have contact with those. Like, we have great relationships with the Instagrams, the TikToks, the YouTubes. So to be able to talk to them constantly about how to use best practices behind these subscription models
Mm-hmm.
it's easier speaking to them because we already have that relationship.
How good are the big platforms, well, I guess all the platforms, at trying to educate the content creators? Because you hear about it from both sides. Like you're reading the newspapers something about YouTube opening a new studio in London with like tens of millions, where the best YouTubers go in, and then the flip side you'll see some influencer with probably 7 figures of fans, so 7 figures of followers, posting messages like, "I've lost my Instagram account. Does anyone know someone who can help me?"
Yeah,
and I mean, I've got a good friend of mine actually. He's head of influencer marketing for Instagram.
Oh wow!
But in the EU.
Okay,
so
right.
He basically does everything apart from the UK.
Right.
So Europe and move to the Middle East. So he's always a great person for me to pick the phone up to when I have a problem. But I just enjoy picking his brains about stuff in general. Yeah. And he tells me that people don't even come on his radar unless 10 million, 20 million. That's what they would consider someone worth investing time into.
I guess it's like anything in life. Like if you've got leverage, which is what a following is, you're going to have a better relationship with the platforms. So if you have a bigger following, you're going to get people who are going to help you quicker. In terms of the question of how good are the platforms at educating creators, from what I've seen, it goes through waves. Instagram for a couple of years will be amazing at educating their creators, and then it will dip because it's not their priority anymore and they're focusing on tech development or they're focusing on audience experience. And then maybe they'll go back to helping the creators and educating them. And I've seen it with all the platforms. TikTok were great at one point, then they weren't so great, now they're great again. And I think that it comes down to, like anything in business, the people within the organizations. When you've got great people at TikTok and great people at Instagram and great people at Snapchat and YouTube, and they care about the creators, they want to educate them because they realize that if you educate the creators, they will make better content, they'll make better decisions, the platform will be better. And I think also it's not just about education, it's rewarding the creators. You've seen it in the past 6 months. So many short form creators have gone over to YouTube with YouTube Shorts because they're actually paying the creators AdSense to post those shorts. Whereas TikTok, you might have had the creator fund, but it never paid well. So you've seen loads of creators move over there. So there's an element of you need to not just educate creators, but you need to reward them to want to make content on those platforms.
Flip side of that, do you advise your creators or do any of your creators reinvest in themselves insofar as, look, if they put out content, are they putting paid spend behind it? Because I guess even though they're a famous creator, they're still only hitting 2 or 3% of their the possibilities.
There's 2 sides to that. It's obviously great if you get more views through boosting your content, but you're not 9 times out of 10, unless you have a really good paid media strategy and you have somebody really sat with you who knows how to do this, you're not exactly promoting your content to your real audience. Mm-hmm. So you're not building your audience. You're just fudging your views. So even when we work with brands and they want to boost the content, we work really closely with the brands to figure out who they're boosting that content to. Are they actually boosting it to audience members that would actually like this creator? Because it's all well and good to boost your content and say, I've got 3 million views on this video, I've got 1 million views on the next video. But if there's no engagement there, then it doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. And if you're boosting it to the wrong people, the engagement won't be there. For us, following, views, it's great, but it's engagement, conversions, real metrics that brands and agencies and commercial partners actually care about, not just the views side of things.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you're completely right. I mean, I guess I wasn't talking about boosting it for, say, vanity's sake, but I'm trying to think of a parallel. But like, I don't know, if I'm Alex Hormozy, then I would therefore, probably know that my audience would be the same as a Grant Cardone or a Patrick Bet-David or something. Yeah. Therefore, if I boosted to people who like those kind of things, then it should drive traffic back to me.
100%, and I completely agree with that. And that's what I'm saying. Like, if you boost it to the right audience, it's the right thing to do. It's a good thing to do. But you just need to be careful it's going to the right audience, because if not, it's going to mess with your engagement.
Tell me about when you guys working together. And I know you said you got 20-ish people on the team and a couple of support people. Yeah. Do you have any let's say content creation specialists on your team, or do you actually leave that to the creators themselves, or do you have experts in fields or videographers?
Yeah, it's an interesting question, because we don't have a specialized I guess, creative strategists in the team. All of our talent managers, we expect them not just to be salespeople, we expect them to help with the strategy, the content strategy of our creators as well. So they'll work very closely, the talent managers, and they've got backgrounds in whether they've come over from other social media agencies or they've come over from other brand agencies. So they know the industry quite well and they've got the experience to do that. We also, especially with our bigger creators, we partner them with third parties to help with their content strategy. So for example, I work with a creator called Caitlin and Leah, who are a same-sex couple. They've got like 9 million followers on TikTok, huge YouTube channel. And we've partnered them with an agency called Cowshed, who are creative strategists and a production company. And they do loads of great work for the likes of, Foot Asylum and big brands like that, KFC. And they're working with them on their YouTube channel right now to help with that creative side of things. But no, in terms of like in-house...
And who pays for that? The creator pays for that themselves?
Well, that's what I was talking about earlier in terms of the YouTube AdSense split.
Okay.
So it's a split that we work on together. I think that what's important is that we try and work with creators who have that creativity, and we're there to guide them. We're not there to make their content for them or to say you should make this, like you've got to make this type of content. We can advise them on, we think you should make this type of content because we think it's going to do well. And we've seen patterns in the industry. We're hearing from brands it's going to do well. We're hearing from TikTok itself it's going to do well, for example. And we'll sit down from that point of view and strategize with them. But then it's up to the creator to try and make that content because they're the creative, we're the business side of it.
What kind of quantum of content, are they typically making, or would you be advising a creator to be making?
In terms of like the frequency?
Yeah.
It's so funny. I actually had this conversation yesterday. It depends on the type of content that you make. If you make some really, really niche type of content or something that's very political or something of that nature, you can be a little bit less frequent in your posting. Or, for example...
Because it kind of lives on.
It's evergreen, it kind of lives on. And for example, we've got some really good comedy creators on our roster. They can't be putting out a video every day because they've got to script the video. They've got to make sure it's actually funny. Can't just post anything. So they might post only a few times a week. Whereas if you're, a beauty creator or a lifestyle creator and all you're making content of is your life, you need to be posting every day. And then it depends on the platform because different platforms have different algorithms. If you were posting a long form YouTube video every day, it's probably not going to do very well. You need to let it live and grow that views and then post another one in like a week or so. Whereas with, TikTok, it's probably better that you're posting more frequently.
Any horror stories or funny stories to tell me?
What, of content creators?
Well, and pick anything under that umbrella. Maybe, I don't know, a content creator that you tried to work with that was a total dick because he never got it, or a campaign that went really bad.
Oh, God, people that have... I don't want to talk ill of anyone we've ever tried to work with, but we've worked with creators that I think what we try and do as an agency is work with people that have the same values as what we have, which is we're proactive people that want to add value to the industry, that are polite, respectful, and we've worked with creators in the past that haven't been that, and now we don't work together. So there's been horror stories in that side of things. Campaign wise, there's nothing too huge in terms of campaigns that have gone really, really bad. But, we've had campaigns that have missed the mark and been taken in the wrong way, or we've had people post content and there's been errors in that content and it's had to be pulled down. And then it's on us to fix that issue. But horror stories, no, nothing that I probably can say publicly, but because it's our job to fix those issues before anybody finds out. But
and we spoke a little bit earlier about I was referring to influencers, and you kind of let's pull me up on it and say, well, hang on, that's an influencer.
Yeah.
We talk about a content creator. Do you ever get would you get influencers coming to you saying, I'd like you to represent me?
Yeah,
and you have to sit down with them and say, well, listen, you're an influencer.
Yeah.
You're not a content creator, but we could, we think you've got some potential, but we need to steer you.
We've had quite a few reality TV stars, if you will, say they want to work with us. And I think that and we've been open to it, and we have done it in the past. And even now we've got a couple of creators that are on Made in Chelsea who we've just signed. And the questions that we ask is, what are you wanting to do with your social platforms? Are you wanting to build a community on there, add value, whether that's, focus on your fashion content, your beauty content, your lifestyle content, whether you've got a message you want to share, whether it's about mental health or whatever it may be. Because if that's the case, and you really are going to double down on your social content, then yeah, we can help you. But if you just want to be a reality TV star, then we're probably not the agency for you. And there's plenty of great agencies that can look after you if you want to do that, and will point you that way. But we're not absolutely not opposed to it. It's just we need to make sure that you have the same values as I was talking about earlier, so that we can actually work with you. Because if not, then that fit isn't there.
Tell me, because I know you look after everything for them.
Yeah,
but like
yeah.
if you've got a reality person like someone from Made in Chelsea, if you've decided to work with them because they want to double down on content and find their niche, but they also want to stay on the telly as well, do you try and get them other media work? Or,
Yeah.
So you will take them as a sole agency?
Yeah, of course. And if I think it works better, there are great opportunities to work in tandem with TV agents as well, and we're always open to that. But it's also great for us to work exclusively with those people so we can actually focus on their strategy. But yeah, of course. And the majority of people that have been on TV don't want to just throw away TV, because it's a great bit of exposure. The money can be great. The money can be awful as well, frankly, with some TV stuff. But a lot of people don't want to throw that away. So if they still want to do it, we still work with them on it. I think the key thing is making sure they're doing shows that are actually going to benefit their career and aren't just a quick win monetarily. Because if they're just going on a certain show, whatever it may be, just to make a quick amount of money, but it actually negatively affects their long-term career, that's where we would advise against it.
Tell me a bit about you personally, and your brand and your goals. And so, I mean, why did you come on this podcast? Who are you looking to appeal to, or who are you trying to get seen by?
I think something for me that I've always been really, really conscious of is not building a company where I'm just the face of it. Because there's a lot of companies, not just talent agencies, where the person who founds it is the be all and end all. And then if that person goes away, the company would just fall to shit. And I've always been really, really focused on making sure that our team is promoted as a great team and not just me. But over the last year or so, I've realized that it is important for me to get out there and spread the message of our agency. And I'm not saying that we're doing, groundbreaking work in the grand scheme of the world right now, but in terms of this industry, I really feel like we're adding a lot of value to the industry. When I came into it, I saw an industry that had some really talented people in it, but I saw a lack of transparency, I saw a lack of regulation, and I saw a lot of young creators getting taken advantage of. I think we're doing completely opposite of that. We are transparent to our creators. We are educational to our creators. We're making them better business people. They're understanding their contracts. They're understanding the industry. We're trying to give them a sustained career, because it's a really important stage of your life. If you're 21, 22 and you decide to be a creator for the next 5 years, if you don't get it right, it's like, you've heard the horror stories of footballers that went to United at 16 and then at 21 they get released and they don't know what to do with their lives. It's kind of the similar thing. So I take a lot of responsibility on that. And I think that if I don't get out there and kind of spread the message of outreach, then there is a worry that people will just sign with the wrong agencies. And I'm not saying you have to sign with our agency, but I think it's important for me to get on podcasts like this and make video content about the agency, showing the different ways in which you can be within this industry, the different ways that you can deal with brands and different ways you can deal with talent agencies. And it's not all just the amount of times that I've dealt with a creator and they say, oh, I just thought that's the way it was. And it's like, no, there's so many ways to do this in this industry. So I think that's really important. I quite enjoy talking to like yourself, talking to people outside of the industry and getting advice on, the business side of things, but just, life in general. I think that your personal life and your business life, they blend into one. They have to.
Absolutely.
So I think that's really important to learn from the likes of yourself. And yeah, I think that it's just too often, I think businesses are afraid to share their story in case they say the wrong thing or, they get misconstrued in the wrong way. But I think that since we've been putting out more videos as an agency, all I've heard is, I'm so glad that you're sharing a bit more info. And I'm not saying we're getting hundreds of thousands, millions of views on this content, but we're helping the handful of creators out there or agency owners to be able to make better decisions. And I think that's important.
I think as well, with your videos, it's very important in your space that you've got to show both your talent and your brands.
Yeah.
Okay, look, you're not a content creator yourself at scale, but if you can't create content that that looks good and niches down, has a message, and basically shows that you're doing all of the things that your talent are doing, or that your brands are doing, it would question your credibility anyway.
100%. And I think that's the thing, isn't it? Like if we're gonna put out content, it needs to add the value that I'm asking all my creators to add. And then if not, there's no point in putting it out there.
So what's next for Outreach? I
think that I have to always remind myself, and I'm sure you're just the same, how far we've come. I think sometimes you're just like, what's the next thing? What's the next thing? And I need to remember this. We've only been a talent agency for about 2 years now. So we're still a baby in this industry. But I think that the key thing for us is we're almost going into the Outreach 2.0, where we want to be competing with the likes of the YMUs and the CAAs of the world over the next 5 years. And it's doable. YMU, when they were James Grant, they grew very quickly, and I think that it's possible for us to get there. And I think the only way that we do get there is we bring in amazing people from these big talent agencies, some of which are coming over very shortly, to help our team grow, to help our talent grow. And I think that listen, we went from a team of 5 to 20 in about 9 months. I don't think we're going to grow that quickly, because I think we almost grew too quickly. And I think that I learned even from a business owner that you really need to focus on your people in an agency and not just think growth constantly. You need to make sure that you're focusing on their personal growth. Are we getting the best out of everybody in the team? So I think that we'll see certain growth over the next few years, but I think it'll be more sustained growth.
Is there a model to do, let's say, more partnership-based stuff with creators as well, whereby I know you get your fee for managing them, etc., and advising them, but what about owning IP together? And
that's the big focus for us as an agency at the moment. Is, like, I'll be honest, we, from a brand point of view, we do an incredible job. We do hundreds of campaigns per month from a brand point of view. We know how to do brand deals, and it's great. It's great revenue. But what we really want to focus on now with our creators and our team is that creator IP, the podcast, the books, the brands, and owning it with them and launching it with them and with third parties. And I think that is also the next stage of this agency, is working with creators to launch those type of projects. And, again, the big agencies out there, they know how to do this as well, and they do a great job of it. And I think that's our next step to get in line with those other agencies and be able to work with bigger talent, is to be able to launch those projects. So right now we're working on a couple of book deals with certain creators on our roster, working on brand launches, working on podcasts, as I mentioned. So it's really, really exciting, because I think when Amy and I started it, if you'd have told us we could work on this kind of stuff, I'd have thought you were absolutely mental. So it's great that we're doing it. I think the important thing is that we bring people into the team that are experts in these fields. So experts in podcasting, experts in publishing, experts in YouTube, brand launches, so that we can have the expertise to be able to do it correctly. Because there's no point doing it if you're not going to do it the best.
Well, look, just to wrap up with, give me 2 pieces of advice: one for a creator and one for a brand. What is the single best piece of advice you could give to each of those people?
Both are very similar pieces of advice. For a creator, it would be stick to the content that you enjoy making, because if you're going to compete against other creators and you're going to have a sustained career, you're going to need to make a lot of content. And if you make content that you hate, you're never going to have a sustainable career. You're never going to make the content, and you're not going to enjoy it. The creators that I see that are doing the best are making content that they truly love making. Don't think about your metrics. Don't think about money. Don't think about growth. Just make really high quality content frequently that you enjoy, and you'll get there. And then from the brand point of view, the reason why it's similar is, if you're a brand and you're wanting to work with creators, and influencer marketing is still very new, but it's growing rapidly. If you want to work with creators and you pick a creator to work with, I know that there's certain do's and don'ts in briefs, but allow the creator to make the content that they want to make. Don't partner with a comedy creator and get them to do something completely different to what their usual content style is, because what is the point in partnering with them? The best brands out there, the Gymsharks of the world, for example, who are amazing at influencer marketing, allow their creators to make the content they want to make, and they let it go. They say, you do what you got to do. Some videos will do great, some videos will do not, but en masse they'll do great because those creators are making effectively organic content with a brand involved. If you push them down a niche or you push them down a brief that is too prescriptive, don't be surprised if it doesn't work. But working with creators right now is the best marketing funnel and the cheapest marketing funnel out there. Compare it to TV, to paid spend, it's still the cheapest way to work and to market your product or service. If you do it correctly, it can be amazing for your brand, but you need to do it correctly.
Well, Emilio, it's been great chatting.
It's been amazing, mate.
Loads of interesting stuff for me, and I'm sure loads of interesting takeaways for anyone listening to this, whether they're creators or brands. We'll put all the stuff in the show notes, but just give yourself a quick shout out in terms of websites, contact details.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to find outreach, it's outreachagency.co.uk. Find me on LinkedIn. I'm happy to connect with anybody. I'm sure my name will be in the description somewhere.
That's if they can spell your
Might
name.
be hard to find it, but yeah, add me on
we'll give you a
LinkedIn.
link.
Follow me on Instagram. I'll DM you. So yeah,
Perfect.
thanks, Matt.
Thanks a lot, buddy.
Cheers.